This is Playing Pretend, your creative bestie's favorite podcast, with me, Catherine Rossler. We're trying this again. So I have my headphones on today because I want to try and stay focused and really concentrated in this episode. And you can hear my parents talking in the bathroom background. So I want to make sure that I'm focused and that I guess I can't hear them because I just tried recording and they were talking and I could hear them in the recording. So we're trying this again. I actually did record earlier, but I just wasn't in the vibe. I decided to stop and do a little visualization about the podcast and how I wanted to feel at the end of it. This is something that I've learned. It's nothing new. People know about visualization, but I'm trying to implement it more into my daily life. And it's something that I was learning from Minecraft with Em on the Brain. So that's what we did. And now we're back. I thought about moving my podcast into a different part of my room. But the thing about that is like I have this cool chair that I could sit in, but it doesn't face a window. And I really like the lighting here. I really like the bright light that comes in through the window beside me. And honestly, I probably could have recorded this a bit earlier in the afternoon, but it's okay. It's about 5:30 now. The weather was extremely hot today. It was like 27, which is very hot for this time of year where I am. I mean, just like a week ago, I swear I was like in a winter jacket, and tonight it's going to go down to like -1. So we're seeing a lot of extremes here, okay? And I think we're going to have a thunderstorm later, which I love. If you don't know, I love rain. So I just came back from the library. I got 2 new books. I love going to the library. And if you don't go to the library, you should. You should go get a library card because sharing books with other people and the library and the system is just great. Instead of having to buy new books all the time, you can get so many books and be able to read them. It's such a luxury. It's such a privilege. I'm so grateful for the library. I absolutely love it. So I got 2 new books, Iris Apfel, Accidental Icon, and this one, and The Artist's Way, which is definitely a lot more common. And then we went to a new cafe that opened up in the little town that I live close to. So I live in a city, but there's like, it's called Mississauga, and it's known as the town within the city. I think that's what the areas are called. Yeah, we went to that. It was kind of cool because it used to be an abandoned building, and I absolutely love exploring abandoned buildings. I wish I had taken a picture of it, and I don't know if I did. I'll have to like go back and look at my photos. But like 10 years ago, I snuck into it with my friends. The main floor, the floor was completely like gone. You could see into the basement, was full of water. Then there was like these rickety stairs that could go up out to a balcony that was like technically on like the roof or 3rd floor. And now there's like a cafe and there's a 2nd floor with a bunch of apartments, and it looks so bougie compared to what it would be. It's a cafe, and I forget what the cafe's name is called, but it's a Yemen-based coffee company. And Yemen, I actually didn't know this. Yemen was the first place that coffee was ever produced. And mocha, the word mocha came from there because the coffee naturally just has like a chocolate flavor. So it's interesting now how it's like been with globalization, it's been adapted and like people now add chocolate to coffee, even though like it originally just like had that taste. Last week, when I was editing the podcast, I was doing a lot of heavy breathing. I was pretty tired out last week. And I don't know, it's probably a combination of the fact that like I talk really quickly, and last week I was having a really difficult time recovering. I like went on a really, really long walk one day, and then I was just like having my symptoms had a flare after that. And then right before my period, I usually have a harder time recovering as well. And now I've like worked through that a bit. I also had like a few nights out because it was my birthday, and it was just like a little overwhelming. And there was also Easter. So there's family, there was my birthday. I find those times also stressful. I'm not huge on them, but I'm trying to enjoy them more. I don't know why. I just have not ever been a super big birthday person. I just find it, as much as it like brings me joy in a weird way, like it also is kind of heavy and depressing. And I'm still figuring that out. I think it's a lot of attention on me, and it's not necessarily like the attention that I want, even though I do like attention. Just the focus feels very overwhelming. But I'm trying to do my best to step into gratitude during those periods of time. Anyways, so I want to chat about the Doechii to Artist's Way pipeline. So the book, The Artist's Way, I know it's been on my radar for years. I've heard about it over and over again, and I've always wanted to go through it. I did have another book. I forget what the book was called, but it was similar structure. It had it was like the same thickness, same size, same kind of vibe, and it was more specifically about finding your spiritual guides. And I don't know why. I had tried working my way through it sometimes, but I really never got past a certain point. And this could be for honestly a number of reasons. I do find I learn better with a teacher that isn't myself. I love reading, but something about having a self-directed course I find a bit difficult. I like having that outside teacher. So yeah, I could just never work through it. I think maybe it was similar to how wouldn't really get that far in meditating by myself, and now I'm trying to integrate it again more and more into my life. And now I definitely can do it longer, but sometimes it's hard to maintain for like long periods of time, or just even do it longer than, there was a time period when I couldn't sit longer than like a minute. I just couldn't do it. And I think like I've changed over time, so I think I'm like a bit better able to do these things where once I had like a certain expectation about them that I wasn't able to meet, therefore I wasn't able to do the thing that I wanted to do, if that makes any sense. Anyways, so Doechii's rise to fame has been super interesting. This past week when I wasn't feeling that great and I was having to like lie down a lot to just like recalibrate my nervous system and like my equilibrium, because if I'd be like vertical, I'd get dizzy and start feeling nauseous. So I was like staying horizontal in my bed a lot, which can be difficult, but I'm trying to figure out how those times when I do need more rest, how can I enjoy my time by reading or like watching longer form videos. So I went into a deep dive about Doechii. She came on my radar. Honestly, I feel like I've known of her music, but I didn't really know it was her. With TikTok, there are certain songs that she's had that have gotten stuck in my head, especially like I think the first one was the yucky blucky fruitcake one. I am Doechii with two eyes. Like that song I know from TikTok. Anyways, so more so, I guess, coming towards the Grammys, hearing about her like nomination and then her performance and then like when she won, then I started to like put the links together of like songs that I'd heard and be like, oh, I know that song. And be like, oh, that's Doechii. Like, I like that. I like her. And so this week I went into a deep dive about her because she just has been coming up more and more. And after having like more, like I've listened to her music more, and now having had this other deep dive on her, I'm like getting super obsessed. And the same time that she was like coming into my life and I was hearing more about her and seeing her in more spaces, I was also getting put on more again to the book, The Artist's Way. And I've heard about this book, like I said, for years. And recently it's come up in some of my favorite podcasts like that I listen to, like Ahead of the Curve with Coco Moco was listed in Wild Geese. I had a friend tell me that she was working through it, and we were talking about like the different books that we were working through. And so I just like kept hearing this come up. And then more recently that they collided, like my Doechii universe and the Artist's Way collided. And because Doechii claims a lot of her success to working through that book. She talks about how she was like I think it was in the streets of New York. She like saw the book on the side of the road, and I love, a side of the road find. I always find things on the side of the road, so I thought that was super cool. And she basically shared how she found it intriguing, and she worked through that. And I guess another really cool aspect of this is like also recently I read the book. I've mentioned this, the book Extremely Online. And it was cool to read that book, to like think about all of the phases of the internet that I've been a part of. And I really liked this time on YouTube when there were creators just like freely making, it'd be like, what's in my bag, or like out for the day, or like come with me to do this, or like vlog day. And it was just kind of people like not run by money or influence in certain ways. They were just genuinely just sharing their creative process and their path. One girl I used to watch all the time, and I really, really liked her. Her name was Peace, Balance, Love, Art. And another one her name was Lauren Rose. And eventually she had a podcast that was called Vagina Slims. And they were just like creative and artists that I really admired. And I liked watching their videos, even though they like weren't super, super huge or anything like that. And Doechii, she was definitely like one of those girlies. She used to document her journey. She had videos that you can still go watch them. And I like binge watch a bunch of them once I found out she had a YouTube channel, because I absolutely love creators like that. But she was documenting her journey, and it really resonated with me because that's something that I'm trying to step into now. You know, I always wanted to make YouTube videos. I always wanted to step into that version of self. And now I really feel like I am, especially with this podcast, being able to just like create videos and share them. And I'm trying to be less curated, and I think that's the kind of content that I really like even in the books I read. I really like memoirs, and I really like nonfiction, and I really like hearing kind of like the raw experience. Even when I do read fiction books, I like to hear about people, like a story of struggle and how they overcome it, and just like hear about the things that are a bit more like, or could be realistic in a sense. And so being able to like go back and see Doechii's journey from the beginning was like super interesting. And I really love that she was so committed to just being fully creative in all of her paths. I highly recommend you go watch and like listen to her channel. And so yeah, this world collided of The Artist's Way and Doechii. And I swear she has resurrected like this new craze with it. So I was just looking on Google Trends. If you don't know that website, basically you can like look up words that people have been searching. I think they have data since like 2004, and you can see it over time, like a scale or a graph, I guess you could say, of the search terms. And right now, The Artist's Way is seriously peaking. Even the book, is a new edition. It is the 30th anniversary edition, and it came into the library. So at the library it is stamped. This came in March 17th, 2025. Yeah, if you don't have a library card, you should go get a library card. Just saying. Borrowing books from the library is my absolute favorite thing. And yeah, so this book is it's like peaking right now, and I swear Doechii has a huge, she is the influence of it. I'm saying that right now. Doechii influenced this new wave of The Artist's Way, and I imagine that it's like only going to get bigger because, I mean, Doechii, she just won her first Grammy. She's the third woman to ever win Best Rap Album of the Year, and it is an insane album. If you haven't listened to it, definitely go listen. My personal favorite my personal favorite song is Denial is a River, and I can really relate to it. I really like how honest and vulnerable and she is in being it. She's really telling like a story that actually happened, and it's cool to hear her talk about the song. But one of my favorite parts of the song is fuck. I like pills, I like drugs, I like getting money, I like strippers, I like to fuck, I like day drinking, day parties in Hollywood, I like doing Hollywood shit, snort it, probably would, yeah, what can I say, the shit works, it feels good, and my self-worth is at an all-time low. I really like that part of the song. It's so real and so vulnerable. And she talks about letting go of using substance, and I went through a big journey with my substance abuse and becoming sober, and so I really resonated with that. I mean, when I first listened to the song, I didn't really get it, but over time I figured out, or listening to like her talk about the lyrics and understand that it's like it's something that I also had or experienced. Is like it's not that I didn't enjoy doing those things, but they also greatly contributed to like poor mental health. Even though they were a lot of fun and enjoyable to do at times, equally it was like the height of the enjoyment also was like the height of my depression and all the mental health problems that I struggled with and stuff. Where was I? But yeah, so it's just crazy to like see her rise and her come up, and she contributes a lot of her success to doing The Artist's Way. And it's cool because you can go on her YouTube and her videos are still live of when she worked through The Artist's Way. And I think it was like, I want to say it was in like 2019. Let me go look. I think it was 2019 or 2020 that she started working through the book herself. And I mean, it's just cool to like see her document her whole journey on YouTube. She was creating YouTube videos since she was like in her teens in high school. And she was, like a YouTuber, a vlogger. She'd share story times or vlogs or how-tos or like a what's in my bag. And then and it's cool to see her share her story of being a rap artist. So in 5 years ago, when was 5 years ago? Yeah, December 2019. So like right before COVID is like when she picked up this book and started working through it, which to me is crazy because it really doesn't seem that long ago. And anyways, so I think like the artist way, it's come into my life in different ways recently. And also just like, it's nothing, seeing a spiritual path to higher creativity. I definitely in my life see art and spirituality as like one and the same. Like art is just an expression of it, I guess, in a certain way. It is one expression of spirituality, because I guess you could say that spirituality is expressed in many, many different ways. It is expressed in the growth of a tree, but I think it is also expressed in however we as humans decide to express it. And, it's mentioned in the creative act, in Big Magic, that, like, it's not a new idea that these ideas and our creativity doesn't come from ourselves, but it comes from something beyond us. And regardless of what you think that is, just like they talk about in AA, just like they talk about in like spirituality, just like they talk about in, I don't know, in so many different, I find this similarity across different disciplines where it's kind of like having the understanding that there is something bigger than you, and you could identify it as God, you could identify it as like the universe or science or whatever it is, but having an understanding that there's something outside of ourselves that is much bigger than who we are. And so the idea isn't completely new to me, but I mean, I haven't worked through it yet. I haven't even really started it. I've read the beginning intro of it a little bit. I'm sure I've done it multiple times over the years, but I've never executed the whole thing. So I do want to jump into that. Will I do it immediately? I'm not sure. I need to like work out my system at the moment. But going back to Doechii, it's just seeing her, even just like being able to like watch her creative journey on YouTube, I think is actually insane. I don't think that's something you often get. And I really resonated with that because that's something that I'm trying to do with this podcast and with my own creative journey, is kind of release the control that I have over it and just like let out what is meant to come out in whatever way, shape, or form. And I think by having this podcast, I'm allowed to like process kind of my creative process and like loosen it up in certain ways that I didn't even know how. But it's just something that I'm like, I need to do this, and who knows where this is going to take me. But it was just like part of my creative process that I wanted to share and like figure out along the way. And so I relate to that. Like I like seeing Doechii's process and to see like her path to getting a Grammy. And I just love that she's documented along the way, because I think sometimes like that's not something you often get to see, is like the behind the scenes. And you've probably heard the saying, like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, or like people are like, they become an overnight success, but really like there's a lot of work and effort that goes into that overnight success that people so speak of. And it is like years of practice and execution and just freedom of expression in different ways. And again, like Doechii really hit the nail on the head with that. And it's so cool to see. I'm so obsessed. It's so cool to see her journey, and it's super cool to see how the artist way impacted her, as well as like how it has reverberated into the world. I really just see like so many more people getting turned on to this book and like using this book and like reading the book and working through it. So I went through a deep dive, and I think one of my favorite, I wouldn't say interview, it's like kind of like a short doc on Doechii. It's called She Went From Homeless to Grammys, the story of Doechii by Spatial, Spacial. Honestly, I think that's like one of my most favorite ones. He talks through it, but then he also uses clips to where she talks herself. So I think it really, really weaves her narrative well together. And I'll list a bunch of the other ones that I listened to in the description as well. But yeah, I highly recommend that you check out Doechii and like listen to her album if you haven't already. And what else do I recommend? I also recommend going and getting a library card if you don't have one. and then checking out The Artist's Way. I want to start reading it, and I think I'm going to weave it into my practice, and I'm not completely sure how. The one thing I find interesting is morning pages is something that I've heard of before. For example, I heard it with Lavender. She's another creator that I listen to a lot of. I listen to her affirmations practically every day, and I used to watch all of her videos on YouTube, and she has like an Artists of Life workbook. And again, you hear that again, like Artists of Life. Like she was another person that combined art into something deeper than just being like something that you create, but also just like the way you live can be artistic and creative. And I think that dives deeper into the understanding that art is spiritual, and it is so connected to like how we are as human beings. Like it is the expression of self, regardless of what that expression is. It doesn't have to be in a painting or in a drawing or in a piece of music, but just literally in the way you live your life. Oh yeah, so I think it's interesting how she mentioned morning pages. I did do morning pages years and years ago, but it was during a time when I think I was still using substance and was like really lost in self. And also in the book that I just read called Mind Your Body by Nicole Sachs, and that is specifically for chronic pain. And in it isn't morning pages, but I would say it's similar. It's like writing for 20 minutes, but you're choosing like a topic of pain. But I see how like those integrate. And when I was doing that for a few days too, I found that there was like a release of my pain in something. And I've had these other things that I've been learning, and the practices, I see how they kind of like all interweave together. So I think something that I need to do is like take a minute and take all that I've learned and put it into practice. And so I'm hoping that that's something too that I can do more on this podcast, is just talk more and more about the things that I'm learning and I'm applying in my own life. And so, yeah, I'm going to see how I can like weave that into my own practice, because I feel like there's a way that I can combine multiple things here, because I've been struggling, I think, with this, with like setting goals, because I joined within the, like, since the end of last year, I did like a long COVID for breathing, and then I did the lightning process, and then I did the Minecraft, which I'm still in. I also did this like community building thing, and I've been flip-flopping between like healing my health versus like stepping into my art practice, and I really do see them as like one and the same. So I want to create some sort of system for myself where I am healing and I am prioritizing art as part of my healing process, because back in 2017, when I was like first sober for like a longer period of time, I drew every day for like a month or something, and that body of work really impacted the art that I create today. And so I think there's something there for me, and I think I need to step into that with all the new things that I've been reading and learning, and kind of create my own practice for self. And hopefully that's something that will heal me, work within my realm of creativity, and also be something that I can make a living off of. And I'm still figuring that out. It's all a process. It's all one step ahead, one step at a time. You know, start small and send it, as they say in the Minecraft community. Start small and send it. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to mention. So the idea of like, sometimes our brain, again, I learned this in Minecraft, our brain perceives like the perception of time, and when something is like really big or really far away, it's almost, it's intimidating, and it can make us play small and like not take that first step. And when Doechii was creating her mixtape, because she actually doesn't refer to it as an album, she refers to it as a mixtape, Alligator Bites Never Heal, she says how she didn't want to call it an album because an album came with a lot of like external and probably internal expectation. And by calling it a mixtape, it allowed her to step into her creative freedom and execute and in this way that she probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise if she viewed it as an album. And I think it was like, honestly, I love when like there's little synchronicities like that. When she mentioned that it was literally the same week that I learned this in the course, and that was a really big takeaway for me to like apply it to something in life, because again, that's actually how our brain works with associative learning. It's easier for you to learn something by connecting it to something you already know. it's just cool how that aligned, and she was able to step into this creative process that ultimately won her a Grammy by changing her perception of what it is that she was doing. Instead of using it as this huge overwhelming mountain, she just reframed it in her mind, and that then she was able to step into the self that was able to create like a beautiful work of art. But if she had viewed it as an album, it probably would have been too intimidating, and it would have been like the resistance or like this rejection of self in a way that she wouldn't be able to step into that process. So that's something that, I think is also really, really, really cool. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening. It's really exciting to, 555, it's 5:55. It's really exciting for me to look on the back end of my podcast. So I use Spotify for podcasters, and I think this is episode, I always get this wrong. I think this is episode 11, which is really cool. 12 will be, so 11, this is like halfway through. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. It's cool to see like the background analytics and stuff, and see people listening and people subscribing. I think what's really cool, and I was looking at this week, is my audience is pretty much I think it's all women. It says 92.3% female, 7.7% non-specified, 0 men, 0 non-binary. Who knows what that non-specified 7.7%, but my intuition tells me that I think it's all female. My age ranges, 76.9% are 28 to 34, and 23.19% are 23 to 27. So my age range, I've got like a 10-year gap, 23 to 34 of people that listen into my podcast, which seems really, really cool. So thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful for you for being here on this journey with me. If you like what you're listening to, or have things that this reminds you of, I'd love if you could like leave a comment, if you could like the podcast, follow it, share it. I would really, 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 really appreciate it. Leave a review. Message me on whatever Instagram, my personal or the podcast Instagram. That would be great. I'd love to hear anybody's insights or thoughts. So I actually heard this recently. I do listen to Khloe Kardashian's podcast. Hate me or don't hate me, up to you. But she took a spring break, which I really, really like. And so I decided I'm going to take a 2-week spring break. I'll probably still record episodes, but I'm going to take 2 weeks to kind of like recoup and take a bit of a break. I think it will help me in reflecting, in moving forward with the podcast and episodes. And yeah, I think this break will be 2 weeks. So there's an episode that will come out on May the 2nd, and then I'll be back on the 23rd. So I'm going to take a 2-week break, and I'm going to start posting episodes again on the 23rd. And yeah, it'll just give me a bit of time to like catch up and give me a bit of space, so I have a little bit of a break and space to think, because I think sometimes it's good to take those periods of rest and to think and reflect. And then we'll get into the second half of season 2, which is crazy. Another 11 episodes to be a total of 22 episodes, because 22 is my favorite number. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a really good day, week, and life. Bye.